Good morning, everyone. I am Priya Sen, Assistant Professor in the School of Pharmacy. Today, I am going to discuss about the stress and the college student. Firstly, what we know about the stress. Stress is a normal, universal human experience. A good stress is that benefit our health, like physical exercise or getting a promotion. Or distress, on the other hand, is the stress that harm our health and often result from imbalance between demand made upon us and our resources for dealing these demands. Attendance at the college has been recognized as one of the most stressful time in one's life. Successfully completing one's college degree and enjoying college experience require flexibility, adaptation, and persistence. Learning to effectively manage stress can increase one's life of doing well in college and in later life as well. Stress is result when we perceive an imbalance between the demand placed on us in a given situation and our resources for meeting our demands. It is basically involved of three components like the situation and its demand, our subjective appraisal of the situation, and our perceived resources for meeting the demand. This demand or situation could include financial problem, arguments, change in school circumstances. These are event hassles or changes that occur in our external environment that may be physical or physiological. Appraisal on the situation refers to how we interrupt the situation or demand. Resources refers to our ability to cope with the demand or stressor for dealing with possible or real problem. Here, this slide shows that one of the difficulties about stress is that, for example, we can take that when the pressure in the tire is tight, you can drive smoothly along the road, and if this is too low, you can feel bumps. And if the pressure is too high, you bounce over the pedals and easily swing out of control. Everyone has an ideal level of stress, but it differs from person to person. Basically, if there's not enough stress, then performance may suffer due to lack of motivation or boredom. However, too much stress result in a drop in performance as a result of a stress related problem like inability to concentrate or illness. Here are some other physical signs of a stress. Everyone has his own personal sign or reaction to a stress, like someone is facing hurt, cold and sweaty hands, headache, nausea, upset tummy, shoulder or back pain, rushing around, working longer hour, fatigue, sleep disturbance, weight losses, change in appetite, and alcohol consumption. Some cognitive signs of stress are like they are that forgetting things, difficulty concentration, worrying about things, difficulty in processing information, negative self-assignment. So we have to learn to access when this reaction are symptomatic of stress or when they may be caused by other reason. Some of the emotional sign of a stress is due to the increased inability or anger, anxiety or feeling of panic, fearfulness, increased interpersonal conflict, easy frustrated. These are emotional reaction of feeling you may experience as a result of a stress. So we have to learn to access when this reaction are asymptomatic of a stress. They may be caused by other reason. Everyone has developed his or her own response to a stress. The key is to learn to monitor your own sign and become aware when they are indicating the stress level is unmanageable. Demand or we can say stressors, it is basically of two type: external resources or internal resources. External resources are the demand or pressure from job or college, demand of family or friends, physical or environmental factor like noise, caffeine. Recent changes can also be stressful event, for example looking for a job, moving, looking for accommodation, holiday, also further. Some common stressors for colleges student include the transition to college, academic concern, time pressure, financial concern, family, faculties, etc. Internal resources of a stress result from our reaction to these demands. For example, if you feel there are many demands and not enough resources to cope, then you may have feel stressed. You may tell yourself they are just too much to do. Our own wants, feeling and attitudes can also create a stress. For example, when we want to do a perfect job or when we expect other to be motivated as ourselves. Next is resources for coping. Resources refer to our ability to cope with the stressors. Coping resources, we can explain it that we can reduce external demand. For example, if the demand causing stress is financial concern, then finding a source of funds or making a budget could be resource for coping. Alternatively, we can reduce the internal stressors. For example, changing our attitude. If you remember the model, this means changing the situation or changing our appraisal, or we can both. We can also increase the resources for coping. Next is different situation call for different kind of coping. Coping refer to the use of a strategy to deal with problem, real or anticipated, or any possible negative emotion that may arise. This approach helps us to control our reaction to the demand placed upon us. We can action, thought, or feeling to cope. Different situation of coping call us different type of coping. First one is problem facing coping. It is aimed to changing a situation or is a company demands. It is most appropriate when you have some control over the situation or you have managed the problem in an environment. It uses specific activities to accomplish a task. For example, maybe a student is having difficulty with a roommate who create a lot of distraction preventing him or her from studying creating pressure and stress for the student. Problem focused coping could involve the student negotiating a contract or using other problem strategy to overcome the stress situation. Next is emotional focus coping is aimed to dealing with the emotion caused by the situation or its demand or is more appropriate when you have little or no over control over it. Sometimes people employ a strategy to reveal a stress that is short term and may actually contribute to a stress such as drinking or taking drugs, blaming other, avoidance or overeating. Many of the situations you may face in college are best coped with by the combination of problem and emotion focused coping. In generally, flexibility, adaptation, and persistence are crucial to successful. There are basically two type of coping resources. First one cognitive strategy, one is behavior strategy. Some of this coping strategy will suit you, other will not. The key is have to change of resources that can be applied demanding upon the situation and your individual preference. Coping resources, first one, cognitive strategy is contain reframing, challenging negative thinking, and positive self-talk. Reframing is that focus on the good, not the bad. Think in terms we want instead of should. It best of if your thinking is related to your goals. For example, I want to read and understand this chapter in chemistry, so I do well in my lab practical instead of I have to read this difficulty chapter in chemistry. Second is changing negative thinking, stopping the negative thoughts you may have about the situation or yourself. For example, a failure, putting yourself down, feeling of inadequacy, a thought such as everyone else seems to understand this aspect me. In order to gain control of negative thoughts or worries, you must first become aware of them. Next, you'll stop to yourself when they occur. Next one is positive self-talk, which means using positive language and a statement to yourself. These are sometimes referred to as positive affirmation. They are useful for building confidence and changing negative thoughts. For example, I can do this or understand this or I will try my best. This work best when they are realistic and tailored to your needs and goals. Next is count to 10, which means it allow you to time to gain control and perhaps rethink a situation or come up with a better coping strategy. Next is cost benefit analysis, which means it is helping me out to get things down when I think this way. Next is smell the roses, which means the experience life as fully as possible require consequence efforts since we become habitual to things which are repeated. Next is keep perspective, which means when under pressure, it is easy to lose perspective. Things can seem unsuitable. Some question to ask yourself: It is really a problem? Can I prioritize the problem? Does it really matter? In other words, look on the bright side of the life. Next is reduce uncertainty, which means seek any information or clarification you may require to reduce the uncertainty. It help to ask in a positive way situation that are difficult to classify. Next is imaginary or visualization, which means imagine yourself in a pleasant or a successful situation to help reduce stress. One way to use imaginary is as the relaxation tool. Try to remember the pleasure of an experience you have had or a place you have been. And the visualization can be used as a rehearsal strategy for an anticipated stressful event. For example, if you have a presentation to give, practice in mind a few times, preaching the audience reaction and even visualizing yourself overcoming any potential pitfall. Next is behavior strategy, which means refer to way of dealing with stress by doing something or take action to reduce the stress experience. First is physical exercise. And aerobic exercise is the most beneficial for reducing stress. It realizes neurochemical in the brain that aid concentration. For example, for some people, having a short walk is sufficient to relieve stress. Next is breathing. For simple deep breath to more complex breathing exercise relate to relaxation and meditation. Next is relaxation, which means from simple relaxation such as dropping the head forward and rolling it gently from side to side or simply stretching. Next is laugh and smile, which gives us energy and help to enlighten the load, relaxes muscles in the uh, face, and we have to take proper healthy diet or proper sleep to change in the behavior studies. Social support, which encourage the development and nourishing our relationship, seek help to help us cope and unmanageable stress. Next is worry time. We designed it to period of time is to just worrying about the situation or stressors, trying to problem solve or think about it. Next is time management, which is very important for the student. There are specific strategies such as clarifying priorities, getting goals, evaluating how time is spent, developing an action plan, overcoming procrastination, and organizing time. This helps us to cope with the numerous demands placed upon us, often a source of stress. Some of the time management principles are like clarify your principle. What is time management principle? These are basic time management principles that are good to practice and will help to keep balance between demand and our ability to meet them. First is clarify your principle. Second is evaluate how to spend your time. This is important. If you are not sure when your time is going, it may be useful to keep track. Ask yourself question about when you are study based and where you might be able to make changes. Next is set goals, which make sure that goals are specific, measurable, action based, realistic, and have a time frame. Then you are more likely to achieve them. A study task and project can be broken down into short term goals that lead themselves to the above strategy. Next is as a develop as an action plan, combat procrastination. It is a putting things even thought you know it could be a better for them to sooner. Next, organize your time to see the time management strategy. Next is prioritizing your key time management strategy. You want to make sure that priority can achieved on a daily or a weekly basis. Next is specificity. The more specific, the more likely you may follow the thought or the through. Next is small bit-sized pieces which break task or goal into a smaller one. This is especially useful for tasks that seem use. Let's say all use all available time. If you are short on time, try using even a small pockets of time for studying or other things. Schedule, you need some system for keeping track of what you are need to do or how you use your time. This may be a timeable. Next is say no or mean it. Say no, it means it is hard to say no to yourself and you to your friends. For example, it is easy to say and go yes, go out with your friends or tell people not to interrupt. It takes practice and often awareness of when it is happening in the first stage. Use reward, they work if necessary, schedule them, They are particularly useful for goals or tasks for have a tendency to put off regularly. For example, putting a task or spending 10 minutes on something you don't like, then watching your favorite TV show. It might be useful to ask a student that what time management studies have worked for them in the past, or else have the student to do some planning as an assignment. Many situations will you face as college student and later as professionals, and best cope with one of the combination of both problem and emotional focused coping. Next, we know about the what is the relaxation. It might be a good idea to demonstrate the practice to relaxation techniques. First, ask for everyone cooperation. State that if anyone doesn't want to participate, it then it's okay. They must be respect the desire to practice. Therefore, they must sit quietly during the exercise. So, performance under stress is that most people find performance stressful. However, they need not cause distress. The following tips for managing the stress experience as a result of performance situation can help you achieve your goals without compromising your health. First is focus on the process, not the outcome, which means individual are often so focused on the outcome or result that is easy to forget. Performance is the learning experience. By focusing on the process which is under our control, the pressure is less than then we can focus on the evaluate element. Second is be aware of the stress performance curve and your optimal level of stress. Third one is a learn and practice coping skill, which means new coping skill like all skill need practice. So what when you need them, they completely don't wait until right before the performance to practice relaxation. Next is reframe evaluation situation, which means thinking of is it as a change of learning more about yourself or as a step to becoming better in that particular area to change to show what you know. The fifth point is to keep and use a sense of humor. Humor is a very effective way of coping. Tell a few jokes or think about something funny before you the performance as a way of release tension. Next is maintain your perspective. Remember that mistakes are a part of learning, that the person who never made mistake never made anything. Next one is self separate your worth life from the performance, which means if you believe your value is based really on how you perform, then this create a lot of pressure. You can base your self worth on many times, just not just about performance. The foundation for lifelong health include health, nutrition, and exercise. There are good evidence to support the idea that proper diet and exercise is the most effective way to protect us from the long-term effect of stress. Regular exercise, even of a short duration, improve the functioning of the body as well as physiological functioning. It is now recommended that 30 minutes of cumulative aerobic exercise 3 times a week often it's protective. And excess intake of certain food can encourage a stress symptom. Items that contain stimulants such as nicotine or caffeine affect the sympathetic nervous system, which can bring on a stress response such as irritability. To manage stress, it is important to limit your intake of caffeine and large amount of sugar in a short uh, time span. Like exercise, regular meals are the key. Skipping meal is not a healthy option. Be careful around exam time, as it is when caffeine intake increases, sleep patterns changes, and meal become even more irregular. This affect our concentration and stress level. Lifestyle is also a basic foundation of lifelong health. We can choices every day that affect our health. Can we get to college or work, or what we eat, what we do with our free time? All these choices will have an impact. We probably all know someone who will think as being stressed out. To prevent being caught in the viscous cycle of stress which lead and even higher level of stress, you need rest and renew your energy. Recreation to provide you with support and perspective. In general, aim to make lifestyle decisions that attempt to eliminate this stress, modify stressful behavior and increase healthy behavior. Next is attitude. Attitudes, we can control over our attitude. Unlike some other aspects of our life, we create to a large extent and reality through our expectation, and we can also change our physiological with our overthinking. In other words, we can say that unhelpful attitude can increase the burdens and pressure we experience. Some of the survival tips for a student, like spend time developing and nourishing relationships, social support, key factor in handling and meditating stress. Strive it to maintain some balance in your life. Just like college offers wonderful opportunity, take advantage all of them. Make to keep your perspective. Next, develop tolerance for ambiguity, just like situations that are difficulty to classify or multiple meaning can create pressure. Next, cultivate optimism, which may optimize that when linked with successful and happiness. Learn to work with others. Many courses now involve that group project. Learning to work well with others and important for college as well as for the further careers. Learn to break assignment down, share them, which means if your department does not object, encourage the student to share with the workload. Remember that you are the beginning of the sharp learning curve, which means this is especially true for junior freshmen. And at lastly, have some fun. Not too much fun, but they are great years of your life, so enjoy them. Thank you.